Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. Thanks for stopping by. Thought I would share with you a real treat. What I have here is an example of the Stanley Bailey #1 hand plane, and isn't she a beauty? I picked this up recently but can't wait to share it with you. So I've seen a number of pictures and videos on a #1 plane, and I never really got a good idea for just how small it is. It really does look cute and miniature and dainty, and here it is. Let me try to spend a few minutes here giving you an idea of the scale compared to other things you might be familiar with. And as a size comparison, here it is next to a tennis ball. And here it is compared to a #2. And here is the 1, 2, and 3 in order. And here it is compared to two standard block planes sitting between a 9.5 and a #1 10. It's actually smaller than either one of them. And here it is sitting between a 101 and a 100.5. Finally found some planes that it's bigger than. And here it is next to a Stanley 102. And these two planes are about the same size. 102's got a wider iron, but the soles are similar. And here it is in the classic lineup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's a pretty tiny little guy there. Just a thought, maybe this is what's meant by the term hand plane. What do you think? Okay, well, if you're a fan of my channel, you've seen that I've been to this website before, and as I've said, I don't know whose it is, but I have the greatest thanks to him for posting such a valuable resource for those of us in this world. Anyway, here's a catalog, 1926. Click on it, get past the rules and levels and squares. Now we get here to the hand planes. And here you can see in 1926, clearly the #1 was one of the planes in the Stanley lineup. And what I want to point out is that the standard #4 was $4.40, and the #1 was $3. So if you were planning on buying a #4 for, if I'm doing my math right, for about 30% less, you could get a #1. Or if you wanted a #1, you'd have to pony up about 45% more for the #4, right? It's $1.40 on $3. So that's interesting. Let me get rid of this, and just for giggles, here's the catalog for 1934, and the same thing. Let's get past all these miscellany tools, now into the rules, levels. Probably the squares are coming up. Okay, here we are into the hand plane area. Let me blow this up a little bit, and once again we can see that the Stanley #1 is listed as a plane. Instead of $3, the price actually went down a little bit to $2.95, and the #4 was $4.20. So it looks pretty similar. #4 was about a 30% more expensive than the #1. So it's kind of funny, if you map those prices to the prices today, you can buy a sweetheart Stanley #4 plane for, well, let's just say maybe $100 for convenient numbers. That would mean you should be able to buy a #1 for $70. And of course that's not true at all. Instead of a 30% discount, it's closer to a 10x premium on those numbers. But anyway, just thought I'd share that. So I can't tell you what type this is. I can only give you a range. The trademark on the iron, if that is the original iron and the appropriate iron, very nice example of the AA trademark from 1922 to 1936, which overlaps type 12 up through type 15. However, the logo on the lever cap eliminates it as a type 12. So that puts this guy in the neighborhood of a type 13 to 15, 1925 to 1932. This seems to have been very lightly used. I mean, if you look at the iron, it seems to be, if it's not full length, it's pretty gosh darn close. Although there is obviously some wear and tear from the ages. There are some scuffs and scratches on the sole. There's a beautiful patina on it, so I like that. The Japanning, a little worn away on the top sides of the frog, a little bit of chipping on the front here, but other than that, from what I can tell, looks pretty good. And of course the lever cap looks like lost quite a bit of its nickel plating, so that's a shame. As I look carefully into the Stanley logo on the lever cap, it seems as though there's nickel plating in among the letters. So instead of a color, it's nickel plated. I don't know if that helps date it. From what I've seen in my research in general, people don't really know the order of the colors and finishes inside the notched rectangle on the lever cap. So at the moment, that doesn't give me any better ideas. And the nickel-plated lever cap is also a Type 13 onward characteristic. The knob on these guys is very small. In fact, it's almost the size of the front knob on a block plane. Sources have cited that the number 98 and 99 knobs are very similar to these and a reasonable facsimile of a replacement. So there's a few things that are unique to the number 1. Notably is there's not a model number anywhere on the body of the plane. The body's just too small. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the only lettering that was ever on the body of these planes were the S and B marks that were the Type 7s and 8s, I believe. But in terms of patent dates, made in USA, plane number, the body's just too small for any lettering like that. It never had a lateral adjust lever, so if I take lever cap off, iron and chip breaker, you can see no lateral adjust lever. Well, I tried to see if I could take it apart, and a couple of the screws are pretty tight, so I don't want to risk it. What I am doing is taking the time, dab a little penetrating oil into the various threads, and I'll give that several days or more to work their way in and do their magic before I try to disassemble it again. And I don't think I'm ever going to use this plane. If I accidentally damage it, I'm going to be very upset. So it's going to be one of those show pieces. Well, I'm going to take the time, maybe put an edge on the iron, take it for a spin. That came out without much of a trouble. And there's my first look at the back side of the chip breaker. And that looks to be nondescript. Not a lot of tarnish, not a lot of rust. Very good condition. And the iron looks like it's got a bit of a round on it. 2 bevels. Looks like the secondary bevel is about as big as the primary. I have to figure out what we're going to do with that. The screws that hold the frog down, you can see them in there. They're slot heads, but they're round with washers under them. They never went to the square profile Philister style screws that were more common in the bigger planes. And you can see on this particular version, they're a little chowdered up there. And I believe the small size makes several of the components on this plane. Although they look common to other planes, they're unique on the number 1. I think the barrel nuts that hold the furniture down are smaller than on all the other planes. I think the screw is smaller. The depth adjustment knob, if you can see it in there, it's solid brass and it has 2 rows of knurling on it. And again, I think this is uniquely small to the number 1. You can try to compare it to a number 2 there. And you can see the number 2 is a little bit bigger and the number 2 has hollowing in the nut. I believe it's on Patrick's Blood and Gore website. He describes that there are counterfeit number 1s out there, meaning somebody took the time to try to recreate something that looks very much like this in an effort to deceive. And he claims one of the telltale signs is that the shaft that holds the depth adjustment nut on a real number 1 is parallel to the sole of the plane, where on the counterfeit it's at a slight angle. And of course, I don't have a counterfeit to show you. So if you're ever out there in the wild and you have somebody who you may not trust claiming that this is a real number 1, that would be one telltale sign. And the screw that holds the chip breaker to the iron, you can see here on the number 1, it's discernibly smaller than on the number 2 end-up hand planes. Did some fiddling with the angle. I think it's up around 30 degrees. Okay, this stone was 325, hitting right in the middle of the iron there. It almost looks like the iron originally had a bit of a camber on it. Actually, quite a bit of a camber. Okay, just ground it the whole way across. A little bit down here, but that doesn't matter. It's the tip that matters. Just gonna polish it up. You've seen me do it a bunch of times before. This one is about 700. I put a little water on it for good measure. And the goal now is to just take out the scratches that were caused by the 325 stone. So I'll just hit the back of the iron a little bit to take the burr off. Stone is 1200 grit. And the side of the water stone is 6000 grit. And with the iron sharp, I spent a little time adjusting laterally by pushing it left or right. And you can use this two hands, kind of like you can use a block plane with two hands. I think the grip is obviously not to hold the tote, but to grab the whole plane. And this is just a piece of straight grain maple. And that's looking pretty good. Smooth as glass. And it's hard to imagine an area where a simple block lane or a luthier's type of plane might not be more convenient, just as applicable. Certainly a lot less expensive. But the plane can be used for small, delicate work. So there you have it. The recommendation from the gentleman I bought it from, and he knows a lot more about it than me, is to not try to restore it, maybe clean it as in dust it, but I think I'm just going to leave it. And that's all I have for this one. I appreciate you stopping by. A little bit of a deep dive to share what it is, how big it is, what it looks like, and a few little esoteric details. As always, appreciate you coming by. If you got something out of the video, please don't hesitate to like, subscribe. And as always, stay safe, take care. Keep your eyes out for the next one.